Okay, I think I'll go ahead and get started just because we do have a lot to talk about, but welcome. So excited to see all of you and thank you for being here. I'm Lisa Sullivan. I am a lecturer and I'm excited to say that I'm going to be supervising this year some students in our multiple subject program. So very excited about that. I'm also the principal investigator on the STENT grant, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the grant as I move through my slides this morning. So first of all, let's just want to share what we're going to be talking about this morning. Welcome, as I said, excited to see all of you. We have over 200 people who registered. I know some people will be coming in and out or can't attend all of the sessions, but it's super exciting to have that level of interest and participation. So we're going to do some acknowledgements. I'm going to talk a bit about our community, who's here. We have some data about the different programs and people represented, and then a little bit of background on STENT. I'm going to share some pre-conference survey responses. Hopefully you've had a chance to do that survey. If not, it's not too late. And then I'm going to do a quick overview of the next couple of days together and some logistics. And then I'm really excited to say we have a panel of teacher educators who will be sharing some takeaways from conversations they had with supervisors last fall. And then we have a brief kind of community building activity, getting to know one another. And we set that up specifically based on some feedback from last year's conference, which is that, you know, here we are all coming together for these really interesting conversations, sometimes challenging conversations, and it would be nice to have a little time to get to know each other before you jump into those conversations. So, all right, so big thank yous to lots of people. This is really a collaborative effort, but I want to thank CTERN, the California Teacher Education Research and Improvement Network, which is funded by UCOP, the University of California Office of the President. They funded the grant that, the STENT grant that this work is a part of. A big thank you to Adria, Patthoff, and Andrew Hood. Yeah, you will be hearing from them in a little bit, but we've been meeting almost daily, lots of emails every day. They've been organizing and communicating and putting everything together. So thank you so much. And then our STENT core team, Rebecca Ambrose, my colleague here at UC Davis, Emma Ippolito and Jane Kim at UCLA, Evelyn Young at UC Irvine, Celeste Hilberg and Johnny Wilson at UC Santa Cruz, Victoria Harvey at UC Santa Barbara, Cheryl Forbes at UC San Diego, and Heather Ballinger at Cal Poly Humboldt. And I put a little asterisk by the folks there who will be workshop facilitators over the next couple of days. So you'll know that they're also a core part of the STENT team. And then a big thank you to all of the workshop facilitators. I know I was so impressed. People stepped up and said, yes, I will share. I will host a workshop and put together activities for folks to engage in. So thank you so much. And then, of course, thank you to all of our attendees. I know summer, July 25th morning, Monday, you're all here ready to engage and participate. So thank you so much. I think one of the things that the STENT team has really been inspired by is the dedication and commitment of teacher educators, supervisors from across California who have been participating in these community building conferences. So thank you so much. All right, so who is in the room? Let me just pull up our little heat map, which Adria put together. Whoopsie. Sorry, I've lost my screen here. All right, so let me screen share again and just show you who's here. So we have as you'll see, teacher educators from across the state. And the heat map works, the colors. So we have a program here in Southern California, Cal State, sorry, the gallery view is blocking it, but Cal State, San Bernardino has a lot of folks participating. University of Redlands, Cal State Fullerton, a big group, but lots of others. So UC Riverside. And then, so we kind of have folks all the way from San Diego up to Cal Poly Humboldt. I believe that's what that spot is. And what we'd like to do is just, we can put that map in the chat so that if you're interested and want to see different programs that are participating, you can do that. So let me move back to my slides. Can you see my slides now? Okay, awesome. All right, and here's also a list, which might be easier to look at, and if you don't see your program represented here, maybe you can put that in the chat, but we have folks from all of these different programs. We have school districts participating. I have some colleagues I'm collaborating with in Chile who are here. And we also have someone from University of Washington in Seattle. So do we have any folks that aren't on the list? CSU Fresno, I think you're on there. Yeah. Yes. All right. So before I go any further, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the lands that I live on and work on. So it's important that we take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of Patwin people. Today, there are 3 federally recognized Patwin tribes: Kachil Dehi Band of Wintu Indians of the Calusa Indian community, the Quetzal Dehi Wintu Nation, and the Yocha Dehi Wintu Nation. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected as elders have instructed the young through generations. And we are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands. If you know the native lands where you work or live, you could put that in the chat. But if you don't know, this link, Native Land California, you can just put your zip code and you can find that information. So, okay, great. We have Chumash, Northern Chumash, Kumeyaay, other Patwin folks. So thank you for sharing. It's interesting just to see that and share that. All right, so I want to just share a little bit about, how this work started. As I mentioned, it was part of a grant. The initial work we were doing was just amongst University of California teacher education programs. We came together, supervisors, directors, administrators, faculty from those programs. And we started looking at supervision practices, and we did surveys and focus groups with student teachers and supervisors. And I'm sure all of you will not be surprised to know that we learned that in talking to student teachers, the most meaningful feedback they noticed came from, or that they spoke of, came during conversations they were having with supervisors. They also spoke about the importance of building trust and relationships between supervisors and student teachers. And they also described this real strong desire for critical reflection and feedback. So getting information that helps them improve, grow, become the best teacher they can be. The other big takeaway was that the work supervisors do is very complex. It's dynamic and it's individualized. And that's where some tensions kind of arise sometimes, is that there's programs, as the former associate director of our program here at UC Davis, sometimes we want to standardize the work of supervisors and ask you to collect data, quantitative data on student teachers. But what's really clear is that there's a lot of individualization that happens, and that supervisors provide different levels of feedback and support for individual student teachers based on their needs. So the other big takeaway is that there's this really strong desire to collaborate and learn with and from other supervisors. So that's where the conference began. So our first conference was in 2020. It was in the midst of the pandemic and racial reckoning that was happening across the country and across the globe. So the theme for our conference, which has continued for all 3 years, is building a community of supervisors for equity and justice. We wanted to do an in-person conference. The pandemic hit and we switched to Zoom. And in a lot of ways that was beneficial because so many more teacher educators, supervisors can participate. So as I mentioned, we have 200 people registered today. We had about 160 people for year 2, which is when we opened it up to folks beyond the UC system. And at that point, we really felt like we'd opened this portal into this whole world of teacher educators from across the state who wanted to come together. So this is the first of its kind gathering of supervisors in California and maybe across the country. There aren't a lot of professional learning opportunities for supervisors. So a few of the things that have happened following the other conferences is that supervisors chose to come together after the conference to really work together and collaborate. And you're going to be hearing from some of those folks over the next couple of days. So we have workshops from UC Davis, UC Irvine, UC Santa Cruz today and tomorrow, where groups of supervisors have worked together on specific parts of their practice. So, and as I mentioned, we have a group of teacher educators who are going to share takeaways from the small group discussions that happened in the fall of 2021. So I want to take a moment just to have you consider participating in a small group this coming fall. So the goal of those discussions is just to kind of take what we're learning over the next couple of days and dive in a little bit deeper and think about maybe some shifts to your practice or something that you want to start including, a tool or a resource that you heard about. So, all right. So as I mentioned, we shared a pre-conference survey. If you haven't already done so, maybe we can share that link in the chat. But I want to share some of the responses that we received and give you a sense of who's here. So most of you are part-time supervisors. There are other folks, there are teachers, faculty members, and some full-time supervisors who are typically lecturer supervisors in their program or just full-time supervisors. So, and then just wanted to get a sense of how many years you've been doing this work. So many of you are just starting out. So I want to say welcome to, I got a few emails from people saying this is going to be my first year supervising. So that's exciting. And we're happy that you're here and we look forward to learning together with you. So, and then a lot of you have only been doing this for a couple of years, so 2 to 4 years. I'm sure you have a lot of experience in the education field overall though. And then I'm really impressed. We have folks who've been doing this work for over 20 years. I like this since 1987 and then 24 years even. So, and then we asked a few questions on the pre-conference survey about your experience or your satisfaction level with certain types of skills that we're going to be and practices that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of days. So the scale is, the 1 is very dissatisfied and the 5 is very satisfied. So this question is, how satisfied are you with your abilities to help candidates learn about their students' cultural wealth? I picked this one because there was quite a big range of responses. And we'll be talking about this topic over the next few days. So next item was, how satisfied are you with your abilities to draw your student teachers' attention to inequities in their classroom? So quite a few 70% feel satisfied or extremely satisfied, but still a few that I think that's something we'll be talking about as well over the next few days. So next item was, how satisfied are you with your abilities to notice and comment on racial biases maybe impacting candidates' decisions, instructional decisions? So again, a range of responses and satisfaction levels. And I have shared these slides. I have not shared what's in the resources folder. Sorry, just a little aside here. Doesn't have the updated numbers because quite a few of you filled out the survey this morning. So I'll update the slides that are in the resources folder so they represent the most up-to-date responses. But and here's the final one that I wanted to share. I am how satisfied with my abilities to ask candidates difficult questions to justify their teaching choices. Again, a range. So I also wanted to ask about, the types of professional learning opportunities you've had opportunities or you've been able to join. I'm happy to say about 68% of you said your program does provide opportunities, but about 30% not really. This number has come up from our first year, so that's exciting to see. And then there were 3 or 4 open-ended items that I just want to briefly share some of those. In addition to clinical observation, what other practices do you engage in as a supervisor that you believe are effective and meaningful? So I know many programs have weekly seminars. I know you all provide a lot of emotional support to candidates. That's a piece of the work that sometimes isn't captured. You build relationships. You have a lot of informal conversations and discussions. You provide professional guidance. And then that piece of building relationships with the K-12 context, so with mentor teachers and administrators. So I'm just curious, is there anything not on this list that you think or that you want to add to the chat? Something that you do that you think is really important to your work? Whoopsie. All right. And then we asked on the survey, what other resources or information do you think would be helpful to you in your work? So understanding or getting some tools to know how to work with mentor teachers who may not be on board. I have put in bold the topics that I think we're really going to be addressing over the next couple of days. So time to collaborate with other supervisors. That's the whole goal of the next few days. So you're going to have opportunities to do that. Culturally responsive practices. We have a workshop on that. Current teacher education research. Quite a few of the workshop facilitators will be talking about current research. Understanding your role and the boundaries of that role. We'll talk about that a little bit. Engagement, post-pandemic classrooms and engagement and management, equity-centered practices. So those are topics that you all, raised as being important. I think it's really interesting that a couple people mentioned wanting to start a statewide forum for supervisors. So that's something I'm definitely interested in talking about and thinking about how we can continue this work and build upon the momentum that we've started. So primary concerns, I think this might be the final open-ended item. So giving your best, ongoing pandemic disruptions, some new requirements, making sure that you're building strong relationships, starting off the year, some remote visits, observations, balancing the workload and your personal goals with professional goals, individual needs of candidates. So once again, is there anything on here that, or do you want to add anything to this list that didn't get mentioned? Anything that you're really concerned about for this year that you want to include? And I see there's some responses to the last item, thank you for sharing those in the chat. All right, sorry. And then I just wanted to say how impressed I was with the responses to the survey and the level of kind of reflection and thoughtfulness that was shared. So here are just a couple of quotes from the open-ended items. And I think these speak to some of the topics that we're gonna be sharing. So I am most concerned about ensuring that I am able to provide support and guidance regarding critical analysis of issues of equity and inclusion. Yes, that's, you know, the topic that we're going to be talking about. And hopefully the workshops you participate in will give you some ideas and tools, resources. Supporting teacher candidates in a culture of gun violence, emotional instability, and the global pandemic. So we still have, you know, there are a lot of challenges. This work is complicated. The work you do is, you know, complex, hard, but I know from speaking to so many of supervisors in our program and other programs that it's also really rewarding and exciting to work with folks who want to be teachers in this context. So, and then I'm still trying to find my way as a supervisor. I worry that my best is not good enough. I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but that level of reflection is, I think, really important. So, all right, so a little bit about the organization of the conference, and then I will be introducing our panelists. So we'll have morning and afternoon workshops. Each workshop will be 1 hour. There will be 10-minute breaks between sessions. There is a 30-minute lunch break. If you would like during lunch, you may want to just have some time on your own. But if you would like to be a part of a networking session, I'll be hosting just a Zoom, very informal Zoom space where you could talk to other folks who are participating. If you'd like, you can ask questions in that space. And then at the very end of the day, we will all come back together for a few announcements and previews of day 2. And then I will also set up debrief sessions. So this is a time at the end of the day for you to either debrief with colleagues in your program, debrief with others, folks who participated in the conference. And we'll have sort of sessions that you can join if you'd like to. So up to you. I know this is a long day, but hopefully we'll all still feel energized at that point. So today we end at 3:30. Tomorrow we end at 2:30. We are relying on technology, so we ask for your forgiveness and patience with any technical issues. I also know that many of you are at home, you have things going on. Feel free to, you know, we're all in this Zoom space together, so hopefully you're comfortable. Take breaks as you need to. If anything comes up and there are technical issues, you can email me, text me, or email Andrew and Adria as well. We will be sharing all of the workshops, the recordings on both the CTERN website and YouTube. A really important part of this work is all of the resources and tools that come out of these conversations and discussions. So the slides and materials are posted to the resource folder, or if you're a facilitator and you haven't posted your slides yet, don't worry. You can do that at any point. So if you are a participant, you're going into a folder and that material isn't there yet. Just, you know, you might look the end of the day for updated slides and resources. The other thing, finally, I want to mention is just, I think it would be really valuable for you to think about ways you're going to share what you learn over the next few days with colleagues. I know in our program, we set aside time during meetings for people to bring back learning that they've done at conferences, summer workshops, things like that. So I would encourage you to share with your colleagues, and you can reach out to any of us if you need any of the resources or tools that you learned about. So finally, thank you again for being here. We now have 90 participants in this Zoom space. I want to really emphasize that this is a space for us to open up, ask questions, reflect, share, and hopefully stretch ourselves, get out of our comfort zone, maybe try on something new. We are all learning together, and I have no doubt that you have knowledge and experiences that we can benefit from. So please be comfortable sharing and participating as much as you can. All right, without further ado, I am going to introduce our panelists. So Jane Kim, who's from UCLA, Andrew Hood here at UC Davis, and Adria Patthoff, and I think they will just do a quick introduction when they start speaking. But these folks all very kindly facilitated small group discussions with supervisors last fall. So these were people who had attended our conference last summer and agreed to participate in these small group discussions. So we thought it would make sense to kind of start off with them sharing what they learned from these small group discussions with supervisors. So Jane, you're first on my screen. Do you want to go ahead?
Thanks, Lisa. I can definitely do that. Good morning, everyone. And yes, I'm happy to be on this panel discussion this morning because following our second STENT conference, we facilitated some small group discussions. And I see some of you here this morning for our third conference. So excited to reconnect with you. But the supervisors in the small group discussions shared so much rich stories and experiences and suggestions for what we can do to move forward in pushing work towards anti-racist and justice-oriented pedagogies. And some of the things that they mentioned were that supervisors do more than check off a list of CTEs or objectives, that is just minimal work. And they do way beyond that. Some of the things that were mentioned were that supervisors help pre-service candidates to reflect on their philosophy of teaching and practice. They negotiate with the mentor guiding teacher in orienting towards equity and justice, and that supervisors really feel that they make theory a reality for pre-service candidates, that what they learn in their courses and seminars is where the supervisor feels they help connect that praxis into the classroom spaces. And so that's just some of the conversation that occurred, but mainly that supervisors feel a strong need to connect and reconnect and have these deep, critical, reflexive conversations with others and to learn from each other. So I'm excited for today, and I feel that this conference hopefully will address and support those needs.
Thank you for sharing, Jane. I'm glad you see folks who were part of those discussions here. That's exciting. Andrew, do you want to share next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here. A lot of the conversation in the small groups that I facilitated centered around a lot of what Jane mentioned. I got a lot of this general sense that there was an appreciation for being able to engage with other supervisors and just having this this group where we could be open and talk about some of the challenges that supervisors face when centering equity and social justice in our practice. And that having supervisors can't necessarily take for granted that we have these communities with which we can engage in these conversations. And so part of this workshop is great because there's this large group of supervisors to have these conversations with, and taking that forward. And I know that some of the members of the small group expressed the need for having thought partners and the desire to be well connected with supervisors at other programs, and hearing about the benefit of hearing about just what's going on in other programs and the differences between disciplines like math and science and multiple subjects, and being able to compare and share resources, and just how valuable that can be. So I hope that we can continue to do that at this conference.
Thanks so much. Yes, that desire to connect and talk to others and learn about other programs, I think definitely comes through and when we talk to supervisors from across the state. So thanks for sharing. Adria.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see everybody. I'm going to just piggyback off what Jane and Andrew said, the very similar themes of conversation in terms of coming together after the conference, like keeping the momentum. As prior, classroom teachers, we know how easy it is to kind of close your door and not communicate with everyone. And for supervisors, I think that challenge is even more compounded because you're in different locations across the state. You're like literally crossing paths on the interstate or the highway and don't have a chance to like sit down and connect. Pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, it's a whole nother story. So these opportunities to continue the conversations, to find the thinking partners that Andrew was saying, to think about this community of space, this place where supervisors can come together and talk about their practice, kind of an ending thought from the conversation that the group that I helped facilitate was really getting their teeth sunk into the idea of supervising as a profession and not just this one thing that we do for the university and check off boxes, but it is a profession where like Lisa was alluding to earlier, like it's not a one size fits all in any situation. So it's really thinking about ways to professionalize supervision in ways that teacher education and ways that teaching is still striving for in terms of defining and refining what it means, blending that tension of standardization with being able to understand and communicate with one another and to relate to one another and to get ideas and to collaborate across institutions and to be creatively thinking about how to address the many challenges of learning to become a teacher and learning to become a supervisor too, I think was part of our conversation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I know others facilitated those conversations too, and I think it was just a really great space to learn and listen to conversations amongst supervisors and lots of questions about like, is that how you do it? And comparing and yeah, so thank you for sharing, Adria. So just a little encouragement that the goal is to have similar small group discussions, maybe more focused this coming fall on a particular aspect of your practice that you want to maybe modify in some way with a group of other supervisors. So kind of a more action research model where you're trying out something new and then coming back and sharing with others how that went. Did it work? What went well? That sort of conversation. So the way that you'll be able to share if this is something that's interesting to you or that you want to participate in is in the post-conference survey that we'll be sending out. So in the post-conference survey, you'll be able to respond that you want to be a part of those groups. So, all right, it's time for a little community building. This is going to be a big part of all of the workshops over the next few days. So we are going to put you into breakout rooms. First, just introduce each other or yourself to the group. We'll have small groups of 4 or 5 people. And here are the questions that we want you to discuss. Besides just getting to know one another, what are some of the things that are most important to you as a supervisor? What are some dilemmas you have encountered as a supervisor? What do you find most enjoyable about the work you do? And we're going to give about 20 minutes to this, 15, 20 minutes. I see people leaving already. Totally. Stay with us. But if you do have to leave at this point, we'll be coming back at 10 o'clock for our first workshop. But we will go ahead and put you into breakout rooms. The other thing to note is that we have a Padlet, so please contribute to our community's Padlet. And I believe that link, I know it's Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Adria, for putting the comments. So shall I do the breakout rooms? Okay, thanks, Adria. There are the questions, the Padlet link is there. It's kind of fun to open up the Padlet. That could be where you start if you want. But I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes.
And just so you know, in the upper right-hand corner of your rooms, there should be a timer that appears. So it'll count down from 20. So we'll be popping in and out as we go in.
Thank you so much. Have a great conversation. Get to know who else is here. Get to know colleagues from across the state. It's kind of exciting. So.